You think farmland families sat down to steak and fancy casseroles every night? Nah. Out in the sticks, dinner was whatever kept you full and kept the bills low. These old-school meals were born from hard times, tight pantries, and pure kitchen grit. Let's dig into 10 forgotten farmland dinners that used to hold folks together. Number 1. Hoover Stew. Hoover Stew was the Great Depression's make-it-work dinner, named with pure sarcasm for President Herbert Hoover. When the cupboard was looking tragic, you boiled elbow macaroni, dumped in canned tomatoes, or straight-up ketchup thinned with water, and sliced up hot dogs if you had them. No hot dogs? Some folks just went noodles and tomato and called it a day. It simmered into this red, greasy, stick-to-your-ribs pot that fed everybody without asking questions. Kids remember it like a time machine. One bite and you're back to hand-me-down winners and empty pockets. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fancy, but it was warm, cheap, and it kept a whole farmhouse moving. Number 2. Salt pork with milk gravy. Salt pork with milk gravy was winter survival on a plate. Folks kept slabs of salt-cured pork in barrels because it didn't need a fridge and it didn't quit. Come dinner time, you'd slice it thick, soak it a bit so it wouldn't knock you out with salt, then fry it in a cast-iron skillet until the edges got dark and crispy. Now here's the magic. Don't you dare toss that grease. You sprinkle in flour right into the hot drippings, stir it into a golden roux, then pour in fresh milk slow while you whisk like your life depends on it. It turns into a creamy pepper-speckled gravy that goes over biscuits, potatoes, or plain bread. One pan, big comfort, no waste. Number 3. Hasty Pudding. Hasty Pudding was the original fast food, long before drive-thrus and microwaves showed up. When farmers needed something hot and filling right now, they boiled water or milk and slowly stirred in cornmeal until it thickened into a heavy porridge. You had to keep stirring or it'd clump up and scorch, so this was hands-on cooking. If a family had molasses, they'd swirl some in and call it Indian pudding. If not, it was just salt and maybe a knob of butter if times were good. Served steaming hot, it stuck to your ribs and powered hours of fieldwork. Leftovers never went to waste. Once cold, it'd set firm, get sliced, fried in lard, and turn into a whole new dinner the next day. Number 4. Mulligan Stew. Mulligan Stew was pure teamwork in a pot. Born in hard times and hobo camps, it slid right into farmland kitchens when nobody had enough on their own. The rule was simple. Everybody threw in something. Potatoes from one house, onions from another, a can of tomatoes, a carrot or two, maybe a scrap of salt pork or a bone if someone was lucky. It all went into one big pot and simmered for hours. No recipe, no measurements, just hope and hunger. By supper time, it turned into a thick, steamy stew that fed everybody at the table. Mulligan Stew wasn't about taste. It was about neighbors surviving together when money was gone. Number 5. Burgoo. Burgoo was farmland cooking on a massive scale. This wasn't dinner for one family, it was dinner for everybody. Originating in Kentucky, Burgoo started as a hunter's stew, using whatever meat was around. Squirrel, rabbit, chicken, pork, sometimes even mutton. Everything got browned first, then dumped into a huge iron kettle with corn cut off the cob, lima beans, tomatoes, potatoes, onions, pounds of vegetables at a time. The pot simmered all day, stirred non-stop with a long wooden paddle so it wouldn't scorch. By sundown, Burgoo was thick enough to stand a spoon in. It fed church gatherings, harvest crews, and whole towns. Heavy, rich, and unforgettable. Number 6. Brunswick Stew. Brunswick Stew was slow-cooked patiently in a pot, and every farm family swore theirs was the right one. Originally made with squirrel or rabbit, this stew later shifted to chicken as hunting became more difficult. Meat simmered for hours until it fell clean off the bone, then went back into the pot with corn, lima beans, tomatoes, potatoes, and onions. Everything cooked down thick, somewhere between soup and hash. Black pepper was used in generous amounts, sometimes accompanied by a pinch of cayenne for those who liked a bit of heat. The vegetables softened, the broth turned rich and tangy, and the whole thing tasted better the next day. Served with cornbread, Brunswick Stew was a fall dinner at its finest. Number 7. Slumgullion. Slumgullion was the truth of a hard supper. No pretending, no polish. This was the use-it-or-lose-it stew when odds and ends were all you had left. A little leftover meat got chopped and browned with onions, then whatever vegetables hadn't gone bad went straight in. Potatoes, canned tomatoes, corn, beans, cabbage, nothing matched, and nobody cared. Water or thin broth was poured in, and the pot simmered until everything softened into one thick, murky stew. Some folks tossed in crushed crackers or stale bread to bulk it up. It didn't look good, but it filled bellies and kept families moving when pride had to take a backseat to survival. Number 8. Stone-boiled beef. Stone-boiled beef was frontier cooking stripped down to pure ingenuity. Before metal pots were common, families cooked meat using nothing but hot rocks, water, and patience. You'd dig a shallow pit, line it with an animal hide or wooden trough, and fill it with water and chunks of beef or venison. Then, stones heated red-hot in the fire were dropped one by one, bringing the water to a rolling boil. As stones cooled, they were swapped out for hot ones, keeping the pot bubbling for hours. The meat cooked slowly, turning tender and rich in its own juices. No stove, no cookware, just raw survival smarts doing the job. Number 9. Fish head stew. Fish head stew was smart cooking, not desperation. Farming and fishing families knew the best flavor was in the parts everyone else tossed. Big fish heads, cod, salmon, catfish, went straight into a pot with potatoes, onions, and sometimes a chunk of salt pork for fat. As it simmered for hours, the cheeks broke down, the bones released collagen, and the broth turned cloudy, rich, and deeply savory. You'd pick out the big bones before eating, but the rest melted right in. The flavor was strong, no doubt about it, but it was free protein and real nourishment. For river and coastal farms, this stew was common sense in a bowl. Number 10. Fried salt pork and greens. Fried salt pork and greens were a farmland dinner at its most dependable. Thick slices of salt pork hit a cast iron skillet and fried slowly until the fat rendered out and the edges turned dark and crispy. That grease stayed right where it was, because next came the greens. Collards, turnip greens, mustard greens, whatever was growing outside, got piled into the pan until they wilted down into silky ribbons. A splash of water, lid on, and everything simmered until the greens soaked up that porky flavor. Bitter, salty, rich, and deeply satisfying. Served with cornbread to mop up the pot liquor, this meal kept generations strong on almost nothing. These dinners weren't trendy or Instagram pretty, but they kept families fed when times were rough, and land was all you had. If this took you back, stick around and subscribe, because Forgotten Food still tells the real story of how America survived.